So to answer Rohan's question about what meditation you should do so that you can be the most self-empowered, that's pretty much the question, right? Okay, now I'm not choppy. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay. You know what? Let me cut the video. How about that? This is better? Okay. All right. Well, just, hey, somebody take the lead on this and take notes and then drop your notes in the chat. That'd be really helpful. Okay. So I want you guys, I think what I'm going to explain is going to really help you understand the importance of doing self-development. I think guys really underestimate the importance of doing your at-home self-development routines. So I'm going to explain it neurologically, and I'm going to explain it in terms of your emotional body, and then I'm going to explain how the practices influence those things to help you change your life. Okay, so first, what are we trying to do through self-development? Through self-development, we're really trying to change our beliefs. Our beliefs. Our beliefs are harbored in our subconscious mind. So this is our automatic thinking brain, right? The part of you where you go on autopilot. The thoughts that you have without using concentrated effort to think those thoughts. So the subconscious mind, some people give it the analogy of a jet engine, and then they give the conscious mind the analogy of the pilot of the jet engine. But the jet engine is where the power is, and then the pilot is limited to only being able to steer where this power is being propelled to. What is a belief? Well, the simple definition is that a belief is a thought that you think a lot. A belief is a thought that you think a lot. Neurologically, you have information stored in different neurons inside your brain. For you to think a certain thought requires your brain to fire electricity from this neuron to that neuron, to that neuron, to that neuron, to that neuron in a sequence. I want you to understand this. All the information that you perceive, all the stimuli that you come into contact with through all of your senses, it gets stored in the brain in different neurons based on what kind of information it is. But for your brain to piece together that information to create a thought requires electricity to shoot from neuron to neuron to neuron to neuron, creating what's called a synaptic pathway. Now, the more the electricity fires in that unique sequence, the stronger the connection of that sequence becomes. So let's go back to the basic statement. A belief is a thought that you think a lot. In other words, a belief is merely a synaptic pathway that has been fired upon so many times that it is deeply ingrained in the brain to the point to where it becomes unconscious and effortless for that synaptic pathway to fire. Now, let me give you an example. This is just a very simple example. I'm in a supermarket. I see a pretty girl. From my past experiences, I believe pretty girls don't like me. That's the thought process. Now, that could come from being humiliated in the past, being rejected, girls ignoring you, not getting attention, getting left on scene, blah, 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 whatever. But what it boils down to from the storage of that information and those different experiences, pretty girls don't like me. That's the synaptic pathway that's been firing. Now, because you've been thinking that shit for years, that's now an unconscious belief. Now, this is going to get crazier. I know this sounds like not that deep yet, but just Walk with me. I'm just trying to explain the neurology. So here's also what happens. If you ever wonder why you experience, so approach anxiety starts in the brain merely as a thought, but then neurochemically that produces certain chemicals in the brain to prevent you from to prevent you from experiencing something negative. So it might trigger cortisol and adrenaline, which activates your fight or flight defensive mode, which shuts your body down from taking proactive action and leaves you in a state where you feel inhibited in the body. So a thought creates neurochemicals, and then electric signals are sent down the central nervous system, which influence certain organs to secrete further hormones, which inhibit your physical actions. So the body and mind are a feedback loop. You can do the same thing in reverse through the body. That's another conversation. Right, so we understand that, okay. Thinking a thought a lot builds a synaptic pathway. Now, check this out. This is where it gets crazy. So, most people think that the thoughts that they think are primarily under their control. Meaning, most people believe that they are thinking thoughts of their own premonition, and that is not true. What is the primary dictator of the thoughts that you think and the beliefs that you've internalized? It is your environment. It is your environment. Your environment is all external stimuli. Now, your environment includes your parents, your past friends, your current friends, where you live. When you look outside your window, the things that you see, the cars you see driving by, the grocery store that you go to, the people you interact with, the people you work with, what you see when you open Instagram, TikTok, when you go to YouTube. This is your environment. So I'll give you a quick anecdote or example or illustration of how powerful this is. The greatest predictor of a person's income is their zip code. And if you go more narrow, it is the income of the friends they most associate with. Now let's go back, let's zoom out to the zip code. Why? Well, if you live, let's say in Las Vegas, if you live in Summerlin, that has the highest per capita income of all of the Las Vegas Valley area. You're seeing foreign cars, Whole Foods, nice restaurants. The streets are clean. There's not a lot of homeless bums on street corners. You know, there's not a lot of people getting pulled over by police. There's private schools. There's all of these things. One second. Okay. When you go to central Las Vegas, there's people using drugs, homeless on every street corner. The buildings are dilapidated. There's police all over the place, you know, shaking down junkies, arresting people. There's low budget strip malls. There's 7-Eleven convenience stores. It's kind of depressing. And then you go out further to Henderson and it's middle class. So it's not Summerlin, but it's not Central Vegas, if that makes sense. Now here's what happens. Well, if you live in the hood and all you see are broken down cars, people getting arrested, low budget convenience stores, low budget shopping areas. If you talk to somebody at the bus stop you go to, they're struggling for money, complaining about the job they lost, complaining about their lack of income. Now, when I moved into the high rise in Vegas and I go downstairs and get coffee and the guy waiting in line is talking to me about some kind of business investment and him and his wife about to go travel to Vienna or somewhere in Colorado to a ski resort, or you get the point, right? And then I go into the garage to get my car and I'm walking past a Rolls Royce, a Lamborghini Urus, a Ferrari, a Corvette. You get the picture? What you're around, whether you want it to or not, is influencing you on a very, very, very deep level, a very deep level. Your environment is so impactful. It's giving so much information to the neurons in your brain. And it's giving you a narrative too. Like if you wake up every day and you're driving past people catching a bus, getting arrested, struggling for change, asking for change at the 7-Eleven, people who can't pay for their gas, etc. And you're going to work listening to people complain about not eating or meeting ends meet. If you're going online, watching red pill videos about people complaining about women, about how women are not good, about how they cheat, about how they're not submissive, about how there's no good women out here anymore and you have to go abroad. These things are creating a narrative in your brain. And it's firing synaptic pathways that are going to formulate beliefs. Now, doing self-development for an hour a day, and here's the really daunting part. Doing self-development for an hour a day is not going to overpower the stimuli that you're receiving from the environment that you're exposed to. That's the truth. I believe the reason that most people will never make $1 million is not because they're not capable. I believe it is because their environment is so influential, or the environment is so influential, that if you're born in the wrong environment and or you exist in the wrong environment or subject yourself to the wrong environment, you are creating a ceiling on how high you will ever rise. Now, let's go back to the daily routines, habits, and rituals. So I created the pyramid theory, which is visualization followed by gratitude followed by affirmation in that sequence. You should note that down. Visualization, gratitude, affirmation. The visualization, you got to understand this. There is only one way. There's only two ways that you can influence your belief. Okay? This is really important. The first way is through your ocular focus, meaning what you actually pay attention to with your eyes. This is why the environment is so important. Now, if you study the development of the brain and how the brain works, the eyes affect many areas that are critical to how the neurons are connected inside the brain. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is the brain develops in such a way to where it is trying to make sense of what the eyes are seeing. So that's why if you live in an affluent area or in the hood, the environmental stimuli, your brain is interpreting that. So in the affluent area, your brain is going to automatically develop belief systems of abundance. Oh, it's not abnormal to see a Ferrari. It's not abnormal to see a nice grocery store. It's not abnormal to see pretty women who are in good shape and healthy. In the hood, it's not abnormal to see a car broken down, somebody getting arrested, a bum, fat people. You dig what I'm saying? Just keeping it a buck. So then you just believe in those things based off the environmental stimuli. So that's the default of how the brain makes sense of reality. So in other words, your belief systems are basically what your brain perceives as normal. It's just patterns of commonality. Now, there's the only other way you can influence your beliefs is through your internal perception of reality. Now, if you close your eyes and then you imagine yourself driving in a Mercedes C63 convertible as you leave your high-rise condominium property and pull out into a nice neighborhood and pass a golf course and pull up on Whole Foods to get a green juice and then go pick up your lady from her spa treatment and you're cruising into the mountains for whatever the fuck, you see what I'm saying? If you imagine that, the brain actually can't tell the difference between you seeing it with your actual eyes versus you picturing it inside your mind. So when you do the visualization, you're giving your brain information and data to suggest a different reality. If you visualize it enough, the synaptic pathways fire. And see, the brain is highly neuroelastic. Elastic. I said elastic. Elastic. Meaning, you could be born in the hood, but through proper mental training, you could remold and sculpt your brain to think and believe differently. That's beautiful. If you believe in the red pill, you can remold and shape your brain to think and believe differently. If you've been rejected by women your entire life, you can remold and shape your brain to think and believe differently. But you can only do that through repeated practice. So let's go back to the first statement. A belief is a thought that you think a lot. So why do I harp on doing the self-development every day, twice a day? You're competing, unless you're fortunate enough to be in an affluent area where abundance is all around you and women love you everywhere you go and money comes easily and your fitness comes easily and life is a fucking walk through the park. You need to take control over what you think and visualize and picture so you can influence your own beliefs. And then your beliefs, the thought patterns that become automatic, are going to start influencing your central nervous system to influence your body to produce different emotions to make you more empowered, or if you have the wrong beliefs, to make you more disempowered. So this is how someone like me can wake up in the morning and just go campaign with no preparation, with no warm up, and be charismatic and happy and humorous and confident and bold and unfazed. Whereas somebody who is experiencing anxiety and insecurity and all these other fear, all these other, not feeling attractive. You see, the feelings in your body that are natural to you, automatic to you, the feelings in your body are merely a reflection of your beliefs. And that's the harsh truth. If you don't take control, there is no way to act yourself out of a state of disempowering beliefs. It is not possible. Because you will always go to your state set default. So you can be on boot camp with me and feed off of my confidence in me pushing you. Let's keep it a buck. But when you go back home, what happens in a month? You fall back into your natural state set point unless you're doing the work to actually change the beliefs that you possess that influences the emotions that you feel. So that is the importance. You visualize something new. You give gratitude for it as if you're experiencing it in the present moment so that you can feel it in the present moment, even though it hasn't happened yet. And then you do the mirror affirmation technique to reinforce it inside your mind. And you do that in a pattern. And eventually you change your mind. You will change your emotional state, and then you will change your reality. And that's all I got. Yep. Yeah. What do you mean by that? I'm thinking. I've never thought about this before. That's really interesting. But I would say women and men have different purposes. And because of that, I would say that the program that you need to follow is different from the program a woman should follow. But I mean, just in terms of how the brain works, our brains have differences, but they're by and large the same. If that makes sense. So if I wanted a woman to change or develop a new belief, the process would be very similar. So if you're asking about how do you coach a woman and you're wondering if it's going to be like resembling what you do for yourself, I mean, yes. However, the gratitude journal is like I'm never going to suggest to my woman that she does a gratitude journal that says I'm the shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's just certain journals. But I think their vision and their purpose were coming from a different place. Does that help? Yeah, I think you got to really, really understand the emotional and like spiritual reality of what a woman wants, or what women want deep down. Because here's the truth in terms of leadership as well, man. A lot of women have never had somebody come into their life and really coach them into like their divine feminine essence. You know what I mean? So reading books like Dear Lover and those kind of books helps you understand what women really want deep down. And if you understand that, then you can use your tools of self-development to help them open up into that light. So it's by small chunking it. I think there's two things that people do that are really, really wrong when it comes to like coaching or influencing their self and other people. And that is, I think people are too harsh. I think people apply too much pressure, and I think people punish too much. If I'm having an off day, I'm not going to beat myself up about that. All right. If I wake up late and I don't really get shit done in the morning, and it looks like I'm getting off to a day that's not going to be highly productive, I don't beat myself up. If I start a night of campaign and get rejected for the first hour and a half, I don't beat myself up. I really don't. Now, I will beat myself up if I'm doing that for a prolonged period of time and I'm like really, really fucking my life up. But that's usually not the case, or it's rarely the case. I think that you should first and foremost relax and tell yourself that, okay, all right, it's not a big deal. It's okay. Starting off slow, cool. And then reset. So for me, if I'm feeling that way, I'd probably go hop in the shower, get redressed. It kind of refreshes me, you know what I'm saying? It's like a reset. And then I would give myself small chunking. I might go, okay, let me just go downstairs and clean up the kitchen and living area. Let me just tidy up. Let me hit the dishes. Let me turn on the dishwasher. Let me get the laundry going. Let me clean out the fridge. Now I got motion. Once I get that done, I might be like, all right, cool. Let me do a 20-minute gratitude. After that, okay, cool. Let me go do a 30-minute walk. You see what I'm saying? I'll small chunk it until I get back on an upward trajectory in the day versus a negative trajectory in the day. And the same thing goes, like if you have a habit you're trying to break, for example, like smoking or drinking or whatever, like smoking weed or some shit like that, or jacking off to porn, and you wake up on Saturday morning because Friday night you tried to pull but you didn't, and then you wake up to a big booty Latina on your Instagram feed, and then you pay for the OnlyFans and beat off. All right, bet. All right. All right, cool. All right. Most people will be like, oh, dang, I messed up. I start beating yourself up, feeling ashamed. I would be like, all right, bet. Let me close the laptop. Let me go wash the pillowcase, whatever I use, you know what I'm saying? Let me go hop in the shower, get fresh and clean, you know what I'm saying? Tidy up the house, same thing. Let me go hit the gym, go to yoga. Let me go for a walk, come back, change. Let me get some work done. Let me do a gratitude, an affirmation, a visualization, a meditation. And then I get back on the path. But I don't make that a big deal. I don't make it a big deal unless I'm truly on a downward spiral for like weeks. You see what I'm saying? I don't ruminate on that because here's the deal. Beating yourself up actually attracts it more towards you because you're focusing on it. And whatever you focus on, like I said, a belief is a thought that you think a lot. The most important thing that you can do to change bad habits and to replace them with good habits is to crowd them out, ignore them, and focus on what you want, not on what you don't want. All right, guys. It seems like everybody's pretty much questioned out.